I'm super excited to show you guys this powerful new system I've been developing. But first, I want to give some context. The butterfly guard is an insanely powerful system and has made a huge comeback recently. But one of the biggest weaknesses has always been when your opponent's standing, it's hard to use. I have been developing this powerful new system I call the double sleeve butterfly guard. It's so effective because when your opponent stands and you learn to control the sleeves correctly, he can never grab your legs. This makes it impossible to pass and very easy to set up some explosive overhead sweeps, as well as baiting them to come back down to the ground, allowing you to transition into classic butterfly or more submission heavy open guards like spider guard or collar sleeve. This is a system that I taught starting from closed guard at the last seminar I taught at Mavericks Association in Croatia.
The person's usually terrified of being in the closed guard because it's dangerous. So when they stand up and open your guard, they don't want to go back to closed guard. Exactly. So see how he put his leg forward and he's trying to deflect the closed guard. But generally when they put the one leg in the middle, that's when you start getting really strong De La Riva hooks, okay? Because that leg in the middle is kind of like their roadblock to your closed guard and triangles and attacks. But we're just going to assume they stay a bit more centered now. Okay, so for whatever reason, the De La Riva hook's hard. We'll talk about De La Riva hook later. But now we're going to do the double sleeve butterfly. Same basic idea. I keep my elbows high so he can't make a grip, but now I'm just gonna put a butterfly hook in, and then I'm gonna put this one under the tailbone. Okay, I can play with it, I move it around a bit, but the first sweep is super easy. I'm just gonna start pulling forward, and then I just cut that down to block out the leg, and he'll go flying. These sweeps are so explosive, and it's weird too, because it's not like a explosively fast movement. I don't load their weight on me. It's like if you bully someone in school or something and you have someone just kind of be on the ground behind them and you just push them, they fall over. Right? I don't know if you guys used to bully people, but stand up, right? But like, it doesn't really take much. Like if I just go, I just kind of try, see like for example there, if I cut this hand in, I know he's gonna go. Or maybe I go and step with the other leg a little forward. Yeah, see there, I just block. Boom, right? I mean, it's ridiculously easy, but it's as simple as that. I just start lifting with one foot on the tailbone, keep the other butterfly hook, and start bringing them forward. And I just see which leg is coming forward. And then I just reach with that hand to clip out that shin. And they'll trip and they'll go flying, you know? And a lot of times, I don't know precisely why, but like sometimes they'll resist it or they'll go in a certain way. I mean, it's almost like they do like a complete 360 front flip because it hits so powerfully. But again, I don't have to do much of anything. And if they put that right leg dramatically in the center, like this, you know, then we're looking more at like De La Riva hook type stuff. But for whatever reason, that's difficult. He's very square. And stay where you were. Yeah. He's square and say the toes are turned out. So when the toes are turned out, the De La Riva hook becomes a little bit more difficult. Okay? I could go foot on hip and do other stuff. We could talk about that later maybe. But instead we go butterfly hook and now I bring this guy in and I just go right under the tailbone. Okay? I notice here, a lot of times I kind of switch this arm to the inside. I don't know that you have to, but I was doing it. Right, see, and then now like I just pull the elbows up and I lift, right? And then I'm gonna clip there. He could stay up, like stay a little taller, yeah. And then we'll talk about this later where I can use these kind of hooks. We'll do that next. For right now, you just pull them forward and try to clip out whichever side they're trying to post with, right? So first off, when I'm here, I do like getting this on the inside. I feel like I can just get a higher rip and that allows me to block out. I feel like when you're here, I can't cut that hand out in the same way. So it's like I want to get on the inside. See, so now as I pull, when he wants to post, it's easier to clip that, okay?
Just finish the sweep.
Usually rule of thumb is with double sleeve sweeps like this, it's going to be a bit different every time. There's no like, okay, he's here because you don't have control of the legs. So I try to feel out where they go and I just elevate their sleeves and come up quick. A lot of times you get a lot of shock value on this too, right? So if I'm here like this, boom, you see I try to elevate the sleeve, so don't move yet. So you see I keep these sleeves elevated. For him to ever come up, they usually have to pull an elbow on the floor, right? It's hard to get up like this. So you at least need to come up to an elbow. So whenever we land here like this, I try to keep the sleeves elevated because I know it's going to be hard for him. Now also keep in mind that usually they're impacting the floor unexpectedly when you do this. So they're a little bit less prepared. So I go here. Now there's a couple things that can happen here. If he tries to like turn to your left and come up, Like, yeah, you see I kind of like punch this way and I elevate this to keep his shoulders flat. A lot of times you can get that. He might turn all the way to his left. Yeah. And then you might end up coming up towards the back. So the finishes of the sweeps can be a bit kind of funky scrambles sometimes for sure. But usually when they impact the floor, they don't expect to have to do a front flip. And you elevate the sleeves and come up quick, I usually get the sweep. Worst case, you just made them do a front flip. That scares the hell out of them. And then you do it a couple times and you'll find your way. Cool. Another point problem some people had is that when you're here, and exactly, like you can't quite get that, but then his weight is on that leg, and you see I switched that to like a modified X hook. Once I get this, it's even easier to sweep, okay? Now I have a couple options. I can force overhead, or I can just cut this and kind of clip him backwards too. Boom, like this. Okay, there's no de la riva. I just go here, boom. See, I start trying to pull, okay? See? And now I can go that way. I can start going that way. You just puppeteer them, okay? So I can't always, they won't always go all the way over. Like sometimes they do, a lot of times they do, but sometimes they'll kind of sit their weight back, and then I just switch to that modified X position, right? So we're here, like this, right? I try to go there. I can't. And see, what I do is I just shoot this through really quick and come here. Sometimes I do tap the floor. It's probably when they're postured up more, like posture up a little bit. Yeah, like this. I would do that then. I just do quick tap. I wouldn't do that if they're low because I feel like they might sit, but when they're up, you can do it.
But your tap is that leg that go to tailbone.
What I had was I had this on the tailbone and you posture up so I can't take you forward. And I just tapped the floor to go under. You see, now I have this foot loaded in. And then now, it's very easy to mess with your base side to side. And I still, you see, like that, how I clip there, right? So you get all those good angles, right? Okay, the cool thing with this, I don't think anyone does this. I haven't seen anyone really play this game. Every single person I've done it to, they go flying the first time. Okay, it's so hard to deal with because they can't grab the legs, right? The best thing they can do, or maybe not even the best thing, but something they will do, is like, and we could talk about this more later, is like maybe he goes to the ground, both knees, all the way, yeah, like this. You know, then I have my choice. I could come up to classic butterfly if you want, if you like to play that game. If you feel like, oh, they're really heavy, you're smaller, you don't feel as comfortable with this because it's a little bit locked in with them, you know, then I can always just go from here back to the hip and go into more classic open guard stuff. But it's a lot easier to go for that game when they're on the ground. And usually people think of butterfly as something that's good when they're on the ground, not when they're standing. But now, for me, it's like the opposite, right? It's like some people learn butterfly half guard first, then they maybe learn open guard. But it's like I'm coming from the other end. I'm doing open guard first, then butterfly from standing, and then the option is on the ground. You could go to butterfly classic, or you could go back to just classic spider double sleeve. Does that make sense? But when they're standing, there's nothing they can do in this position. Like the only thing that ever gives me a hard time is when they try to get really low to the floor. Even one knee up is pretty easy to deal with, and I'll show that in a minute. So now we're here, so he's gonna posture up a little bit like that. So see the, posture up and sit your butt and posture up, yeah, like that, right? So I tap and go under here. Okay, so now sometimes here, they stay so postured up, you just cannot move their balance at all. Okay, that'll happen. A couple different ways you can deal with this. Easy one is if you can just grab the ankle, you can just take a basic ankle sweep, control both legs, come up so he can't stand up. That's a really simple one. One I like to do, I posted this online recently, it's really brutal, okay, but it works, is if he stays postured up here, you have to have a bit more mobility to do it, but I kick this through and I bring both feet in. This one's a nightmare, I'm not gonna do it. But when you go, yeah, it's awful, okay, because it's not like a normal overhead sweep, right? Yeah, they can't post their hands, and they're so high postured, and it's very unexpected. So when you go, it's terrifying, right? Of course, it's easier to take them straight back, right? But that one is absolutely terrifying. So I recommend, if I do it to someone, I always let them out in the gym. If you have to do it in tournament, I've done it like once, right? But it's always a hard fall, and it's really scary for the person on top. You'll feel it when you do it. Don't do it to the person. Just like get the point where they're going to go. You'll usually be able to see it in their face, and then just let go of the sleeves and let them out. Okay, but it's a great sweep, especially when they're doing that hyper deadlift. Okay, of course you could like go and take a normal sweep. It's less fun, but it's legitimate as well. Okay, but that's going to be something they do. And then just a point in general about playing this position. is some people, they go under and they're like, but couldn't I just go to single leg X here? Yeah, you can, but that's like a downgrade in position. If I have both sleeves, he can't do anything. So why would I let go and start messing with this? Now, if he knows the positions, he can try to pass, you know, of course it's still good for me, but there's a lot of guys are really good at passing X guard nowadays. If you have both sleeves, they can't use the hands to mess with anything and you just flip them, right? And if I'm fighting someone who's like really big, really strong, you know, maybe like they're gonna die for a toe hold out of nowhere. When you just control the hands, they can't do anything. So it's like a super safe option. I'm gonna start moving to the ground, but I wanna show one more little movement when they're standing. So sometimes I'll be here, I get underneath here, and yeah, exactly. Say that leg steps a little bit wider, you can walk around that side to get the video. Yeah. Okay, so if he steps a little bit wider sometimes, then maybe I can't get that same kind of positioning where I was under before. But sometimes what I'll do is I do stuff, I can put like my toe under the thigh or under his butt here like this a little bit, go around the backside there so they can see. Right? So I can go like here, right? And you can play with a lot of different ways to off balance, you see? And you're gonna get a good off balance there, right? And then also just feel with like push pull. If I just like wanna create a little more off balance one way, I can do a light push this way, and if I feel a little reaction to it, then you start creating a lot of movement, right? So you just wanna feel these kind of positions out, right? That's a huge idea in general, is just understanding like push pull is huge. It's such a simple concept. Just go on both knees right here. What's up, right? If I have the collar and I'm pulling, he's leaning backwards, right? He's resisting, right? But a lot of people, you hear that when you start a martial art, use their force against them kind of thing, right? That's super powerful, but a lot of people, they kind of lose track of that. They never really realize that. It's almost like something you say, but you don't really mean it. So like if I'm here and I'm pulling and he's resisting, let's say he's resisting -100, right? So I'm pulling, like let's say I'm pulling 10, he's resisting -10. Okay, well then it's 0, right? Okay, but he's -10. If I push with 1, and I feel any resistance against 1, like any, that means he's not just 1 different, it's -10 to 1. Does that make sense? So he went from resisting 10 power to forward 1. That's an 11-point change. So I think when a lot of people think of push-pull or like use their weight against them, I think they imagine they gotta push really hard and then pull really hard. But it's more like barely push. So if I barely push and I feel any amount of light movement forward, I can rip the hell out of him, right? The same is true for sleeves, right? Like if I'm here, and just go to like both knees on the floor or something, right? And I'm playing here or something, right? And then I just kind of like press on the sleeve and I feel him try to come towards my lapel with his hand, towards my lapel. Yeah, see, that's gonna pull, right? And you can do that anywhere, so stand up. If I'm underneath or something and there's just not much movement, you know, don't put a ton of weight this way, then a ton of weight this way. You just barely put weight one way. And then you'll feel like, oh, his leg moved back. And then you start getting huge overreactions, right? And then people watching, they'll perceive that as like, wow, they're really explosive. But it's just technique. And if you just understand that little concept, same, I do that in arm drags, like just kind of bend over, like kind of athletics, stand up, bend over with your arms like this, be neutral stanced, like perfect, like this, right? Okay, so we're here. So like if we're here like this, right, and I grab the sleeve or the wrist, right, and I just press a little, usually, you know, they want to make a grip, right? So if I just press, yeah, you see, when I grab and I feel any sensitivity, that's going to pull hard, right? You can use that anywhere, gi, no gi, whatever. Just whatever you want to do, just apply a little force, feel a little resistance. The big idea is don't apply a ton of force. Because if you go 100, then you have to go back -100. That's 200-point change. You want to go +1, -100. Does that make sense? Because all you got to do is get them to commit a little effort. It's a simple idea, but you can use that literally everywhere in jiu-jitsu with any technique. So one thing they commonly do is they'll put that left knee on the floor. Easy sweep I love to do is I do 2 butterfly hooks like this. I'm going to tuck the arm and just lift. You get a really easy sweep. Okay? It's really beautiful looking too when you hit it. They just twirl. Sometimes they like 360 on it, right? So you're here, right? We have a stand up, okay. I go here, boom, he starts doing this. You see, and I just like, I have that momentum. Keep your arms kind of tight. Stay down. Yeah, keep it, yeah, see there? Like that, right? Keep the sleeves elevated. Try to come up. Make sense? That one's really easy. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on when they go to the floor, right? So we're gonna be here. Okay, so from here now, They go one knee up, right? And then now they're just gonna go both knees on the floor. Okay, and here you have a couple options. It's a little bit harder to keep the sleeves elevated from here because they're so low. So depending on what game you like to play, you could easily use the sleeves back up and use this to come over to catch an overhook. And then now you can really go into more classic butterfly stuff. If you watch Adam Wardzinski, you can go to a lot of that kind of stuff. It's really good. If you feel a little bit more risky with that, which I love classic butterfly, I used to play it a lot, but of course if I'm rolling with someone like 100 kilos, I feel like it's just a bit risky because I let them get so close that if I miss the sweep, their whole body's on me. So I like to play a little bit more open guard, especially if they're big, right? So now here, instead of doing that, I'm just gonna switch my foot back up to the hip. Okay, and now that he's low, I can push the hip out and I can start coming back up to either classic spider or things like this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go up to a collar sleeve position. So we're here, he's on the ground. You can pick your favorite side. I could do on either one, honestly. I'm gonna put my left foot on the hip, turn out, I put my foot in the bicep, and now I sit up and grab the collar, okay? Now the strong thing here is once you grab the collar and the sleeve and you have a foot on the hip, it's so brutal for them because I have so much distance here. I have the posture broken. He can't break the grip because I have the sleeve. It's a very, very tough spot for him, okay? From here, it's very easy for me to just pull into triangles directly. It's very easy to pull into omoplatas. So we'll focus on that first, then we'll look at a loop choke.